So, do you just love that song?
Yes.
Love it. It hits you someplace in here, right? So, I thought I've been doing a lot of research and reading different books, and this past year I've gone through a very extensive training program with Mary Morrissey, and it's all about imagining the life that you would love to lead. And I've read a lot of things that there's a lot of neurological research going on. And this time in time, this place in time where we are right now, the researchers are able to not just ask the questions and listen to the answers. They're able to ask the questions and listen to the answers and see them while they're happening in people's brains. And so a lot of things that we're finding out now, the conclusion is only that a lot of things that we think work one way actually not only don't work that way, but they work the opposite way. And so the good news for us as unity people, as new thought people, as positive thinkers, is that science is showing now that we were right. I love to be right. I love to be right more than anything else. And a lot of the stuff that cynics have called magical thinking is actually scientifically based. And one of those things is your imagination. One of the works that I've been reading is called How Emotions Are Made, and it's by Lisa Feldman Barrett. And yes, I will give you that name again after the talk if you want me to. And the other, I haven't actually read this guy's book, but I've listened to all his TED Talks, so you know it's pretty much the same thing. It's like listening to an outline of his work, and his name is Dan Gilbert, and he wrote He wrote a book called Stumbling on Happiness. And in the most important thing in his book, I think, is that the happiness you make yourself, like if you can imagine and you can project and you can tell yourself that you're happy, that happiness is just as good as winning the lottery. You know, a lot of people have thought, oh, you know, they say they're happy, but how could they be happy? They're, you know, living in poverty, or they've only got one leg, or, you know, whatever it is. But the truth is that happiness is just the same as happiness that just happens to you. Okay? So the point of this is what's going on in your brain is just as important, if not more important, than what's going on out here. So I thought about this song. And this is an outline, I think, of the different things that, well, when I first started looking at it, I thought, well, this is an outline of all the ways that we could improve the world if we just thought about some stuff differently. And then I got to looking at stuff, looking at researching how this song was written. And it was written in 1971. And John Lennon said that it was really influenced by Yoko Ono's book of poetry and activities called Grapefruit. And she, you know, we've been conditioned to believe that Yoko Ono is kind of a weirdo and a nut, which she is, yeah. But she's also an extremely powerful creator. And her book, Grapefruit, she published in 1964, self-published, 500 copies, and now it's in print again. She's republished it, so you can get it. And what it actually is a book of poetry and art and little exercises for you to do. And they're really wonderful. That one of them is like, imagine, some of them are things to do, and some of them are just things to think about. And one of them she has, imagine a beautiful cloud in the sky, and now dig a hole in your garden and plant it. Who thinks of that stuff? I mean, you know, just beautiful little activities. And in her book she says, a dream you dream alone may be a dream. When two people dream together, it's a reality. So that was one major influence. The other influence, which, you know, I kind of expected the Yoko Ono thing because she was such an inspiration to him. But do you remember Dick Gregory? He was a comedian, but he's probably better known as a civil rights activist and kind of an anarchist and different, you know, he was really, really way out there, man. But he gave John Lennon a book, and I can't, I've done some research, I can't find the title of the book, but it was a book that was about positive prayer. Sound familiar? And so he was, and he was really, he was thinking, or what John Lennon said was, you know, like if you want a car, get the keys. Get it? You know, I mean, it was like every one of us when we discovered Unity had this same, you know, realization that it's in your hands. You know, your life is in your hands, whatever it is. And it's difficult to remember that a lot of times. That's our work, I think, is continually remembering that our life is in our hands. We're not a victim. Even like, if you think of a person who's in the direst of circumstances right now, they have a choice of what to do with their imagination. Everybody. As long as your brain is working, you can still envision your life the way you want it to be. So, imagine there's no heaven, no hell, and nothing, no afterlife. So imagine that there's no afterlife. This is it. Now, the fear of death, which we all have, which causes us to have addictions and repetitive behaviors and everything to kind of push death away, can be overcome when we are present here. Because right now, we're all dying equally, right? So everybody here is going to die, right? At some point. We don't know when it is. But right now, we're all so equally alive, right? Everybody's right here, right now. So I want you to think about, so one of the things Dan Gilbert said is that humans are the only animals who think about the future, right? And so as death is in the future, let's relax that ability right now and just come to here. So what I want you to do is close your eyes and start listening to your breathing. Now, take your right hand and put it on top of your left hand. What does your hand feel like? Feel your hand. Now take your left hand and put it on top of your right hand. Now take both of your hands and put them on your cheeks. And just feel what that feels like. Now put your arms around yourself and give yourself a little hug. And just feel like that, how that feels. Now listen. And see what you hear. And take a deep breath in through your nose and see if you smell anything. So this is life. This is life. It's right here. And if we can stay grounded in the present, if we can stay grounded in the moment, then there's nothing to worry about, right? Jesus said that you just shouldn't worry about anything. That was one of his favorite teachings, was just don't worry about it. Don't you worry about a thing. That's another good song. Because everything is coming to you as it should. And another person that I've been reading lately is Byron Katie. And the work of Byron is, I love that Byron Katie calls her work the work. She believes that it's the work. You know, there's no other work. If one does this work, there's no other work that needs to be done. And that is to stop deciding that something is not the way it should be. She says, you know, how can you know that somebody is not exactly where they need to be? How many times have you had an experience that seemed like a bad experience, but it turned out to be the very best thing that could happen to you? That happens all the time, right? And how many times have you gotten something that you really wished for, and it's turned out to be either disappointing or not good? So we don't know. We don't know stuff. We're making up stories about stuff, right? So if we can just, when we feel those stories, when we feel the fear of death or regret, or we feel a story coming on about how we are, if we just stop, who is it that says stop, drop, and pray? If we can just stop and become aware of our bodies and our senses, we can transcend that. So the second thing is, imagine there's no countries and no religion. I want to ask y'all a question. Religion, of course, is about a superiority. So, like the way I was raised was, and kind of going back to the first verse, if I didn't save people, you know, if I did not convince you to convert to Christianity and accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, it was my fault you were going to hell. It was a big responsibility, right? So, religion, I think, is about superiority. We knew something that other people didn't know, and it was up to us to share it. In the Catholic Church, they have a hierarchy, which is pretty well maintained. The radical Muslims right now are the same way. You know, the people are under the control of others. But I want you to think about, so that one's pretty obvious, but think about imagine there's no countries. So I've heard a lot of people talking about political power. Political power. So what is political power? Can you tell me? What is it? Any ideas? It's a serious question. Yes?
It's more of a power of like controlling the thought of the people of the land.
Yeah? Okay.
Like getting them to feel the same way or think the same way.
Right, yeah. Yeah. So like getting a group of people together that think the same so you can get elected. Right. Anybody else? What about when you're in office? What is the power?
For the laws to be made, the same thing, but for the laws to be made.
Yeah, the government.
To govern.
To govern, right. To make our decisions for us, right? The power to make decisions for us. And we've also noticed in the recent past that it also means you can make a lot of extra money, right? So you can have a little bit extra for yourself. So if we didn't have that, what would we have? I mean, do you, seriously, how many times a day do you wonder whether you're doing what Senator Cornyn wants you to do? Hardly ever. Much less Ted Cruz, you know? In the structure that we have in the United States, we have some choices we can make, right? About how we live our lives. And as long as you stay under the radar, you're fine. If we want to change that, I was talking to Fatima about this yesterday. If you want to change things, you have to be seen. Like if you want to change political stuff, you have to be willing to be seen. And that's a really hard thing if you have kept yourself invisible for a long time. And my example was the civil rights movement. You know, those people were convinced before that movement really gained enough momentum to become a national thing. Those people were convinced that if they were seen, they were a target. And I think women are the same way. You know, you've heard women say, "Oh, I'm not a feminist." I had high school girls tell me that, "I'm not a feminist." And then I would say, "Well, do you believe that women should make the same amount of money as men?" And they would go, "Well, yeah." It's like, well, you're a feminist. So if you want to change the government, and I think we're all kind of churning around this right now, if you want to change stuff, you have to be seen. The gay rights movement was the same thing. You know, people who were like, "You do not know me. You will not know me." That's what being in the closet is all about. You will not know me. Had to stand up and be seen. So if you want to make change, it's not going to be you. It's not going to be me telling you to change, right? It's going to be me becoming more of who I am and being willing to show myself. And a lot of that is going to be getting rid of all the crap that excuse me, I said a bad word. Getting rid of all the CRAP that people have told you about yourself. All the little, you know, you're not good enough and you're too big and, you know, just sit down and be quiet, little lady, and, you know, boys don't do that, and, you know, all of that stuff. So that's the deal. The country is only us. We are the country, right? The government is another thing. We are the country. And we can be whatever we want. We don't have to be, mean to people because they don't look like us. I encourage you to keep working on that idea that you are exactly as good as the best person in the world. You're as good as Jimmy Carter. You have the same amount of love in you. You have the same amount of ideas, and you can do what you want to do with your ideas. All right. So, this is my favorite part. Imagine no possessions. So, as you know, John Lennon was a outrageously successful pop star. And by the time he wrote this song, he was a multi-millionaire. And they say that by the end, well, for one thing, by the end, he gave Yoko credit for helping him write this song. And he said that before, if she had been a man, he would have given any man credit for helping him write a song. Anybody. He would have put it right on the record. But since she was a woman, it didn't seem like such a big contribution. Well, he changed his mind about that. And he also changed his mind about, you imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. And he changed that to, imagine no possessions, I wonder if we can. Which I think is a really good thing for a multimillionaire to say. So Dan Gilbert in Stumbling on Happiness says that money doesn't make you as happy as you think it will. More money does not make you as happy as you think it will. And one of the things, he's real funny. Watch his TED Talks, I encourage you. He says, we're really bad at predicting stuff. Really bad. We think that, if we get this thing or that thing, it's going to just really be it. All I need is this thing. Jim and I joke all the time about that scene in The Jerk, that Steve Martin movie, where he's like, all I need is this, and that thing, and this ashtray, and this umbrella. He's walking along with all this random stuff. This is all I need. But it's sort of like that, isn't it? I need this car. I need this house. I need these clothes. I need these shoes. I need a person in my life who will love me just the way I am, And those things can make you more content. But they're not going to make you a lot happier, is his point. Now, as far as money goes, money doesn't make you happy after $75,000. What they've discovered is the magic number is $75,000. So once you're making $75,000, that's as happy as you can get with money. You can, if you have a goal, like if you have a foundation you want to set up or whatever, by all means, get a whole lot more money. But $75,000, this just blows my mind that you could actually pinpoint how much it is. What they studied was if you go from poverty, where you never know, when you're going to be able to pay the rent or buy groceries or any of that stuff. If you go from poverty to middle class, you're a whole lot happier. But once you're middle class and you go to whatever's next, I don't know what they call it these days, but if you go, even if you go all the way up to the 1%, you're not going to be any happier. The money is not going to make you any happier. So, what does make you happier? I also listened to a podcast called Hidden Brain by Shankar Vedantam. Does anybody listen to that? My husband does, yeah, don't you love him?
Yes.
So he's talking about envy the other day, and how we are in a, it's a, what is it called when you have a disease that just goes everywhere?
Metastasize?
What? Pandemic.
Oh.
Pandemic of, epidemic of envy because of social media. So you're looking at, they tell us in recovery, don't compare your insides to other people's outsides. That's all you do on social media. You know? And so you're like stoking your envy. I'll tell you what you can do. Look around this room. We're going to do this right now. Look at the stuff in this room and the people in this room. Which of these things are you grateful for?
The people.
And the bears. I'm so grateful for that.
And the piano.
And the piano. Yeah, somebody gave us this piano.
Yeah, Janet
Wonderful.
Cobb.
Janet Cobb gave us this piano.
Yeah.
And, you know, just the fact that this room is here, you know, in this wonderful, beautiful place. And we get to use it for our church. This is our church. That's what I kind of love, the fact that this is our church, you know? And all these wonderful people are here. Right now, I don't envy anybody. Right? There's nothing that needs to change right now to make my life better. How about you? Right in this moment. So when you feel envy overcoming you, as I do many times a day, you can stop and think of gratitude. Think of something that you're grateful for. There's one more thing I need to tell you about the no possessions thing. Who loves Star Trek in here? Yes. So there was an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, my personal favorite, called The Neutral Zone, and they found these people who had been cryogenically frozen at death to be thawed at a later time, and they thawed them out. One of them was a housewife who had died of an aneurysm, and her husband had frozen her. One was a country and western singer who died of heart and liver problems, and the other was a businessman, a very successful Wall Street type. The housewife, they found her family. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling this for her. They found her family, which was the thing that meant the most to her. They found not her, you know, it's been hundreds of years, so like her descendants. The country and western singer felt like, you know, everybody had forgotten his songs anyway, so he could go and, you know, do it all over again. But the guy who was just, who was money oriented, had nothing. Because of the introduction of the replicator, nobody ever needed anything that they couldn't have. So when you feel your possessions taking you over, here's my suggestion. Get rid of some of them. What you'll find is, especially, this works for me with clothes, so I kind of think it would work with everything. You think you need a new something, but if you just go through your closet, like shop your closet, you will find things. And so, and again, the gratitude thing comes in. I have all of this stuff, you know, I don't really need anything else. And when the hardest part of giving a talk for me is finishing, because there's just so much you need to know. But what I want to say is, in this coming month, already, for me, I'm starting to feel anxious. Okay? And so I challenge you, in this coming month, to imagine how you would love for the Christmas season to be for you. How you want to feel while you're doing it. Feel gratitude for the things you already have. Think about experiences rather than possessions. Think about how you can share your love. Do some service work if you want to. But let's imagine this world where love is the most valuable thing. Thank you.